All right. Good afternoon or good morning for some of you who are already on the West Coast. And essentially our host, Andrea Nicolas Perdu, with the owner of our new property, the Reid Creek Lodge in Wyoming. So we are delighting for all of you to join us from all the Americas. And Andrea, I think you have a little jewel to show us. So please, you can start.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm really humbled and excited that you all have joined us today. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I'm excited to talk about, my absolute favorite thing to talk about, which is Reid Creek Lodge at Wagonhound. And I'm Andrea Nicolas Perdue. I'm the CEO of Wagonhound Holdings, and this is my family's property. So without further ado, I will share my screen and start the presentation. Can you see that okay, Dominique?
Oh, perfect.
Great. So again, thank you so much. I'm here to talk about Reid Creek Lodge at Wagonhound. And it's important to note why we have branded it as such, because Reid Creek is part of a larger organization, which is Wagonhound Land and Livestock. And Wagonhound Land and Livestock is a commercial working ranch that my family has been building over the last 23 plus years to cover the footprint that it has today, which is about 300,000 acres in southeastern Wyoming. Ranching is a tradition in my family as far back as you can go. We were ranchers in the UK before we immigrated to the US, and we immigrated here in the 1880s and immediately became ranchers in Kansas. So this is truly a part of the DNA of my family. These photos that you see down here, the left-hand side, that's my great-grandfather. Those kind of smaller kids driving that team, that's my grandfather, my great-uncle. And so it's something that has been in my family for generations. So when we first immigrated here in the 1880s, we found our way to ranching in Kansas. And then my grandfather was the general manager, not the owner, of a ranch in Nebraska, which is where my father was raised. So he was raised as a cowboy in Nebraska. And one thing that I'm really proud of is having grown up in the Dust Bowl, my grandfather was acutely aware of the value of healthy soil, and he was very focused on that. And so I think he was really ahead of his time, because now that's such a buzzword today. But I feel like that's something that was ingrained in my father from a really young age, is that healthy soil is truly at the root of a healthy planet and really fuels the main values in which we operate land and livestock, which is land and wildlife stewardship. And so that, again, is something that my family was taught from a young age. My father ended up in San Diego with the Navy. And once he was out of the Navy, found some financial success. And as soon as he was able, he really wanted to get back to his true passion, which was a life on the land. And so started building out Wagonhound Land and Livestock. As I mentioned, we sit in southeastern Wyoming. So if Wyoming is a perfect square, we're kind of right down here in this corner. And it's this incredible part of the country that is steeped in Americana history. So it's right where the transcontinental migration came through. So you have all of this history right in that part of the state. So it's right where the Oregon Trail came through, which will be kind of exciting for those of you who learned how to use a computer, on the MacBook with the little green guys going on the Oregon Trail. So really right before you turn into the ranch, there's a marker for the Oregon Trail, and you look up onto the hillside and you can still see the wagon ruts and where they came through. So it's just this, every time I stop and look at it, and it just fills you with this sense of awe and this kind of history and these ghost stories that pepper the land. So for example, this building that you see here, it's a one-room schoolhouse that was built in the late 1800s and looks exactly the same as it did when the last students walked out. And there's still stories in the area of the teachers there and the classes there. And, those types of stories, again, they really just pepper the landscape and kind of, weave this beautiful story about generations gone by. So you'll be riding up and over the mountains and come across the foundation of an old sawmill, and there'll be a story behind that. So that just kind of goes on, and it's all of these little treasures that you discover throughout the landscape. I mentioned earlier, Wagonhound Land and Livestock is truly a working ranch, and I think that differentiates us within the landscape. So we are a commercial ranch that has really brought its brand to mean the gold standard of the different divisions that we operate. So cattle, farming, outfitting, horses, and really have been on the echelon of those historic ranches within the U.S., which I'm really proud of that legacy. For example, in the horse operation, we've been awarded the American Quarter Horse Remuda of the Year award, which means you basically have the best horses in the U.S. So we take a lot of pride in operating at the absolute highest standard that we possibly can. Within any organization, when you're thinking of that transition of leadership, it's an opportunity to consider the businesses that you have been in the past and where you want to go in the future. And that happened for Wagonhound Land and Livestock about 2 years ago. So my professional history is in finance. Out of undergrad, I actually was living in London, working on the trading floor for Goldman, came back for business school, was with a private equity firm in Los Angeles, but obviously had this deep history and love for this ranching background that had been part of my growing up. And so about 2 years ago, my father asked me if I would come over and run the organization to be kind of that next level of leadership into the future. And that's what I did. So I looked at the different businesses that we were in and where I thought it was significant for us to participate going forward, what would make us relevant going into the future. And I feel very deeply about the innate connection between humanity and nature. Science has proven time and time again that being on the land, having your hands in the soil, that it calms the central nervous system. And I think that is so fundamental for who we are as human beings. And that's something that I feel very passionately about. So the opportunity to invite individuals who might not have that experience on a day-to-day basis was something I felt very, very passionately about. And that was the genesis for Reid Creek Lodge at Wagonhound. So Reid Creek Lodge is an 8,000 square foot lodge, 7 bedrooms, max capacity, we can sleep 22. It really is built as a family home. And so it has these beautiful organic communal spaces, which is really important to the type of program I want to provide. We are bespoke buyout only style properties. So we work with one group at a time. And my whole goal is that a group comes in and when they leave, they feel calmer, more centered, more connected to the land and more connected to each other. And that's my number one goal. And so everything that I tried to organize within the program was with that in mind. So it's an all-inclusive program. All of that payment is handled up front. So when you're there, you just get to enjoy being together. We've all seen as, you start traveling with larger and larger groups, maybe you're in disparate cabins or separate hotel rooms, and you need to kind of organize the time that you're going to meet for breakfast, or you need to organize, okay, fishing's at 12:30. And even just kind of meeting that schedule can create a sense of stress, or maybe you have a 6-month-old baby who didn't sleep well, and so naps different than what you thought. And all of those things can really play into the dynamics and the sentiment of the experience. And I wanted all of that to go away, probably because I've experienced all of those things. And so I, again, really tried to organize this program with those goals in mind. I think the ideal number of adults, since we're 7 bedrooms, obviously single occupancy, you're at 7. I think it's ideal for maybe kind of 12-ish adults, or if you're with a multi-generational family, I'd say 18 to 20. Again, it just depends on kind of what the age of the group is that you've got visiting. We are about 4 hours straight north of Denver. We're about an 1.5 hour drive from the closest commercial airport, which is Casper, and that is serviced by Denver. It's a quick little puddle jump up there. or there is a private airport in Douglas, which is about a 30 or 45-minute drive. So actually fairly accessible. There's no minimum night stay. Again, I didn't want to dictate that. Different people have different needs in their travel schedule. Our remote nature does almost self-dictate that. Our 2023 rates are $15,000 a night. We do have what I call excursion enhancements. So we often get asked of, is there anything else that we can add? And we have curated a collection of things that I think are very, very unique to the property that we could add on to a visit if somebody was interested. And those things are pretty different and special, but the itinerary in and of itself, that's the all-inclusive program, I think is a really, really spectacular and special experience. So I think I'll move on to kind of just discussing what an itinerary might look like. That tends to be the best way to give you a feel. So when our groups come in, the first thing that they want to do is settle into the lodge. We have beautiful communal spaces that make it very easy to have that organic connection. So even as that day that people are coming in, maybe the cousins they already came in, they ran around, looked, they picked all their rooms, and now they're feeling antsy, so they can pop out to the back porch and our head of hospitality can show him how to rope on the roping dummy. Out back, we also have Reid Creek sits in this beautiful valley of these gorgeous rock formations. So you can go out and you can rock scramble. It's this exfoliated granite rock, which if anyone's been to Joshua Tree, it's that feel. It's really sticky. So you don't have to be an expert to really enjoy getting out and about into the landscape. We also have our 3D archery targets out there. And so these are all things that you can just do that afternoon when you come in at your own pace. You grab a guide. So the staff is all included. So we have our head of hospitality, 3 additional guides, 2 private chefs, daily housekeeping, someone there to help serve you drinks, etc. So you grab a guide and you say, hey, let's go out and grab the bow and show me how to shoot an arrow at a target. And again, none of these things need to be planned ahead of time. It's all just, based on where you are at that moment. So maybe the teenagers need to get out and get some activity while, all the adults sit and kind of connect over a house cocktail and discuss the week that they're about to have. So it's a really beautiful lodge that provides that organic connection. So then the next morning, after everybody's kind of, discovered the area around the lodge, maybe the first thing that we'll do is jump up to Windy Reservoir. And that's the picture I had behind me at the front at the beginning of the webinar. But so Windy Reservoir is about 3 miles up into the mountains from Reid Creek Lodge. And again, one thing that I feel really strongly about is understanding that different groups, different individuals within that group would have different mobility needs, different levels of athleticism. And so I never want someone to feel like they aren't able to participate in anything that we're doing. So what I think we accomplish really well is accommodating all of those different needs. So when we're going up to Windy Reservoir, you can get there a million different ways. So maybe you're really athletic and you're training for a marathon and you run up there. We've had that happen multiple times and it's a brilliant run, a lot of elevation gain. And you can do it one way, which is always fun for a runner. Maybe you want to jump on the e-bikes and bike your way up there. Maybe grandpa doesn't get around that great and he wants to jump in the side-by-side so it still feels adventurous. And, maybe cousin Jim just had knee surgery and really needs to get up there in a pickup truck. Those are all things that we're able to accomplish and it's accessible for that. But then everybody gets to be up on the shores of Windy Reservoir together and have that combined experience. And so once you're up there, you can see in this picture on the left, you can kind of feel that serenity. It's quiet, it's still, there's not another sound around. And the first thing that people say is, wow, it's so quiet. And what's really different here is you're on deeded land. So it's private land. You are the only people there. And it is a very private and majestic experience. So you get up there, you throw a line in the water. You have a bald eagle flying overhead. There's a resident eagle that always sits over up on the side. We've got a very active beaver down at the bottom of the dam. It's always fun to see what he's been up to. You jump on the paddle boards, jump in the water, go for a swim. And this is also a really brilliant place just to jump off on adventures. So again, what I think is really fun is that from here, maybe there's a funky looking tree that you can kind of see from where you're at. And like, wow, I really wonder what that looks like up close. So you grab some beef jerky and a bottle of water and you go and have that experience. And so it's, I kind of like to say it's a little bit for those of you who like to snorkel or scuba dive. It's not a point A to point B experience. It's really that exploration in the center. And that's a really important part about that experience. So then we'll come down to the lodge, and then maybe that afternoon we'll jump over to the arena. So this is Headquarters Arena. As you can see, it's a big, beautiful building. It's designed so it could host world-class horse shows, sales. It is a really wonderful place to kind of start that horseback riding adventure. Now, again, it can suit multiple skill levels. So if you're a beginner or have never been on a horse before even, this is a really approachable place to say, okay, I'm going to sit in the saddle and see what happens, right? This feels very different than getting on in the middle of the mountains. And if you're an experienced or even a professional horseback rider, this is your dream, right? So you know that you do all of your work in the arena before you ever go out. So you can practice your side steps, you practice your lead changes. We get the barrels up and going and do competitions on the barrels, which is always really fun. And the same with the poles, to do some pole bending. And maybe Aunt Sue's allergic to horses. She wants nothing to do with it. We have a great little bar and seating area over on the side where she can sit and have a gin and tonic and watch the kiddos run on horses, but she's not going to be uncomfortable. We also have a conference room over here on the side. So if there is some business that needs to get done, we have those facilities as well. As I mentioned, so our horse program is pretty significant to Wagonhound. And so we have a breeding program on site, and we foal out about 30 foals a year. And that kind of happens in the spring, early summer. So what's really fun is this time of year when guests come, again, we're seasonal, June, July, August, it's when we've got the baby horses on the ground. And there's nothing more exciting, sweet, melt your heart like a group of baby horses. They're so curious. They're absolutely hysterical. You can tell their personalities immediately. And so if folks are done riding or, before they get going, you can walk out back to the different pens or the paddocks back there, and you can meet all the different baby horses. You can bump into our head of the horse operation, Heather, and see what she's got going on. She'll tell you all the different stories and the backstories of the different colts and fillies and studs that we've got back there. And so that's just a really fun way to interact with the horses, and people really love this day. So now the next morning, you've gotten comfortable on horseback, and we're going to go explore Spring Creek Tent Camp. So this is a really fun night because for those that are so inclined and adventurous, we can do a camp out up at Spring Creek Tent Camp. And I think that that's also something that's really unique in our offering. And there's always some that aren't that adventurous. And so we are able to accommodate them as well. But so in the morning, for those that got really comfortable on the horses and they're excited for a 3.5-hour horseback ride, that's about 8 miles up into the mountains, we all jump on horseback that morning. Maybe someone has a conference call, or they've got the little ones and they aren't able to do that, then we can very easily sync in with our horseback riding group and get all of those folks up there on the side-by-sides in a pickup truck, or for those that want to ride the e-bikes up there. So again, multiple ways to get up there. But then at about lunchtime, we'll all meet up at Spring Creek Tent Camp, and there'll be a beautiful lunch spread, and everybody gets to sit in camping chairs in a circle and talk about their different adventures getting up there. And then again, it's a really beautiful spot to kind of take off on adventures from there. So you've got Spring Creek Reservoir, which you see down here on the left. You jump in a boat, jump in the water, throw a line in the water. Spring Creek Tent Camp sits on this little valley where you've got, again, this gorgeous kind of rock outcropping up behind it. And you can see in the upper right, that photo there, a couple gentlemen that had little kids. And so it kept being like, okay, we'll go up to the top of that rock. Okay, we'll go up to the top of that rock. We'll go up to the top of that rock. And they ended up with these little kids getting all the way to the top of that rock outcropping. And it's just this amazing sense of freedom and accomplishment for our different guests that don't get to experience that all the time. It's not scheduled. It's just organic, and it's a really fun day. And so for those, well, for everybody actually, so you can catch some dinner in the reservoir. We have a big barbecue up there. And then for those that want to stay the night, they stay the night. And then for those that kind of want to sneak back down to the lodge, we're able to get those folks back down to the lodge. And everybody can either join back up for breakfast that next morning, or we will serve breakfast for those that stay down at the lodge down there, and just accommodate whatever it is that the different members of the group needs. Just talking about our horses again, you know, I'm sure that everyone has experienced kind of the nose to tail dude string, which is great, and that's a wonderful experience for people as well. This is something it is a little bit different. These are born and bred Wagonhound horses. They're just as adept out on the range as they are in the show arena. So you're on a very athletic horse that we've raised since it was born. You can see here, you're not on a trail. You're just going to be covering country. So it's a really fun and pretty different horseback riding experience. And we're really proud of the horses that we have, and find that our guests really enjoy that. So then maybe that next day, you're going to do just a few more of the activities that we've got on the ranch. Again, you can kind of, one of the things that's really fun is if you have, so say you have got an athletic group and they said, oh, we saw those sawtooth peaks over there, we really want to summit it, right? So that's what this couple did in the center there. We're a really athletic crew, and so they packed up lunch with one of our guides and they went and summited Sawtooth Peak. We have a professionally designed skeet course and sporting clays course. Again, it accomplishes a really fun half day, 30 minutes, whatever, for different skilled groups. So if you are a professional marksman and you love going on a full skeet course, this is professionally designed. It takes you up into the mountains, and you could easily put together a half day of shooting. If you have never shot a shotgun and you want to shoot at a couple clay pigeons, and then shooting shotgun wasn't all that fun because that kick really bothered you, shoot a couple times, then you can head over to the rifle range where you could shoot a 22 with a scope at a target tree, and pretty sure that you're the best shot this side of the Mississippi. So again, it really accomplishes different skill levels. Who will really enjoy that experience. There's so much hiking, it's just endless. So for people who just like to get out and about in the country, we are home to a 4,000 head elk herd, and that means that you have quite a few shed horns to find. So many of the animals that you'll see on the ranch, they shed their antlers once a year. And so finding shed horns is basically a real life adult or real life treasure hunt. And so it doesn't matter if you're an 80-year-old cowboy who's seen 1,000 sheds in your life. Every time you spot a shed, somebody's eyes light up. And I always tell my kids, it's never we're going hiking, it's we're going shed horn hunting. It's really just kind of how you pitch it, right? So this little boy, for example, saw that rock. If you can see it, it looks like it's just barely balancing there. So they saw that from the barn, and him and his cousins decided that they wanted to pack up and go see what that looked like up close. So they went on the adventure of a lifetime, packed their stuff up, climbed up there, and then he spotted this shed up and over the other mountain. And he ran over there, picked it up. You can see it's about twice his size, and he packed it all the way down. And that's just so fun to see. I mean, I'm sure we've all experienced with cousins, brothers, sisters. You know, a lot of times someone that age, you're kind of packing them on your hip or on your shoulders or something like that. And it's so fun when you get out into the country like this, and they just get out there and do it on their own. So this next day, you can just go and experience all the other things that the ranch has. This is another reservoir on the ranch, beautiful for wildlife viewing, a wonderful spot to have lunch. You can see you've kind of got the old Western appointment of that gorgeous cabin right there on the water. You'll see the pronghorn, you'll see the bald eagles. So just another beautiful afternoon to kind of go and experience additional landscape. And then we like to wind up the trip with what we call the big night out, and that's over at Headquarters Lodge. So you'll drive over to Headquarters Lodge, pop out of the vehicle, and you'll be met there by Moose and Mango, our team of Percheron horses. You'll jump in the open wagon and you'll go for a big picnic shelter ride where you kind of leave, go in this gorgeous circle, check out some new landscape. You'll stop at the picnic shelter, throw horseshoes, cornhole, have appetizers, cocktails, come back to Headquarters Lodge, and you step inside, and it's a beautiful building. You'll have country music playing, a glass of whiskey, and it houses one of the preeminent private art collections of Western artwork, including TCAA, which is Traditional Cowboy Arts of America, which is rawhide braiding, silversmith, bit and spur making, and saddle making. And so it's all kind of displayed in this beautiful, almost museum-like setting. And so you can walk around and look at that artwork. And then as you move your way back towards dinner, you end up in the barn area where the stalls have been converted to a huge bar and basically a game room. And one of the stalls now houses a mechanical bull. And you turn those on, crank up the music, and everybody has a wonderful time there. In the back, you have your tables set up, surrounded by a wagon collection where you'll have dinner, and then you get to have your big night out, dancing the night away. And our guests tend to really, really enjoy that experience. So in here, I just kind of run through the itinerary so that you don't have to take that all down. Just a couple more shots. I love this one on the bottom right. That's that crew that was off to go check out that rock. They spent probably 24 hours packing those packs, which included every single stuffy that they had and some water bottles. And so it's just a really fun sense of freedom that I think everybody in the whole group gets, regardless of their age. Again, run through kind of how you get to the lodge in terms of time from Denver, the closest commercial airport, that private airport that's just right there in Douglas. And that's the presentation. So I'll stop sharing the screen and really excited to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It's nice to see that we are far away from the Dude Ranch. We are in a real, this is
That's
real,
right.
Real Western, happy soil, happy guest. It's
That's right.
full of love, and it's beautiful. So, so we said it's a 7-bedroom.
That's right.
You only rent it from June to August.
That's correct.
I'm sure you saw, you already had a request for December. And so, voilà, but I think guest is only from June to August for that time, unless one day you decide to open it more.
That's correct. Voilà. Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. We'll just not at the moment.
And it's all inclusive.
That's correct.
Beverage, alcohol, and all the activities. You will pick up the guests at Casper unless they come at different time. But if they all come together, you definitely include that. When they come at once, if they all come together, as I said, to Casper. Correct?
Yep, that's right.
So let's see. Bon, Louise, you were saying hello from Florianopolis in Brazil. Catherine, you were asking the ideal time. So of the year, you see is limited between June and August. You still have some availability for August, Andrea? We just started with you on the 15th of July, but I think you mentioned you're not fully booked yet until the end.
So I think we have 1 week still available between kind of the 10th and the 18th.
Okay, perfect. So when is there a transportation available? Yes, from Denver or Casper, from Casper, or you can do Denver, but then there will be a cost. Correct, Andrea?
That's right. That's right.
Can they get free?
And we'll work with each group depending on their needs. Denver would definitely be an additional cost for that transfer for sure. And if you've got multiple kind of trips going into Casper as well, but we just work with each group depending on the timing that everyone's coming in and what they need.
You will do your best, I know. So Lisa, can the guests free ride on the horses at their leisure?
So we would always have a guide with them, just for safety. So it sounds like the individual who asked that might be an experienced rider. You know, it's always best to go out with somebody else just for safety reasons, but it's a pretty, I don't want to say free form, but you definitely have a lot of freedom. So if you're an experienced rider, it's something that you'll enjoy. So for example, right now we have a group from the NCHA, which is American Cutting Horse Association. And so they're experienced professional riders. And it's even something that they really enjoy. So you definitely don't feel like you're on a dude string having to stay behind a wrangler in a nose to tail line.
And especially you said you have no trail, it's Wild West.
That's right. That's right.
But with 300,000 acres, it's not like you're going to see the limit of the ranch soon and then go back. You might just get lost. Huh? It's not just, it's like, how do I get back to the lodge? That's what
right.
worried me. Yeah? Yeah, because the example that you give on 5 nights is only an example because there is no minimum stay. So if you have clients who are in 2 days, wants to do as much in 2 days, then all your little program there goes back to a 2-day program. Huh? And they choose and pick or do everything, stay less time at each for each advantage.
Yep. We have some guests that are very into the horseback riding, and so they really want to focus on that. We have some guests that don't want to horseback ride at all. And so depending on the time and their interest, each itinerary is specifically designed for that group.
Catherine, you're asking if you recommend 5 nights or longer.
So that was funny because when I originally came up with kind of my suggested itinerary and somebody asked me about a longer night stay, I literally looked at them wide-eyed and I said, you have a family that gets along for longer than 5 nights? So that's all just based on the dynamics of the group. We can absolutely plan an itinerary that extends beyond the 5 nights. So it's all just based on what that team needs or what that group needs.
I would think 7 nights. A lot of people are taking a week. So Julianne, you said, how many acres did you just say? 300,000 acres, Julianne. 300,000. I have never seen any property. So we have a piece of the West for us right now. So I cannot believe, and it's private. My first question to Andrea said, Andrea, I see you big arena. Are you hosting individual that comes for the day? And she said, no. The clients at the lodge are the only one. So you imagine, I think it's, and I feel your price for $15,000 US a night for up, you said, to 22 guests. Huh? If you have kids, mostly maybe 14 adults and kids, I think it's quite fair. Huh? So Lisa, you want to know already if you're booked for 2024?
We are not booked for 2024.
So let's go. Huh?
That's right. We'd love to host you.
Joanne, you said, wow, yeah, wow, for 300,000 acres, it's incredible. Lisa, is it typical that our clients would provide gratuity as well?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
Yeah. So we like to do that. Again, we try and we'll work with an advisor on what their client wants. Again, my goal is that when people leave the ranch, they feel amazing about the experience that they've had. And so we can work with the advisor, but what we have found is most people like to kind of just take care of all that up front. So when it's time to leave for the airport, you just get to breathe deep and leave for the airport. You don't need to take care of any of the other things.
All right. Susan, we want to know if you have yoga or any wellness program. That's a good.
So those are all part of kind of our excursion enhancements. So we have a lot of guests that ask about yoga or massages. And so we're able to bring in practitioners in each one of those areas.
All right, perfect. Is there any question, anyone? I do not see anything else. So as I said, next time we're going to go to the lodge and meet your man there, Mitch, who is usually based at the ranch always.
That's right. He's always based at the ranch. Yeah.
So we can do that next time, and we're going to explore the lodge life. But meanwhile, I think we all have enough with all this information. I like the fact that it's not a property, it's not a resort, but you're really selling an experience.
Yes.
And today, more than ever, it's an experience. But what I'm learning is also the fact that I love your expression of happy soil, meaning you really take care of what you have and your ground. And happy soil, happy planet, and happy all of us.
Yes, absolutely. That's very, very important to who we are.
Carl, thank you. You said thank you. It's been terrific, but thank you very much for being with us and joining us. And as I mentioned, Andrea will be sending you the recording and, of course, the rate sheets and everything. If you have any other question. And she has given us an extra commission for you guys, so never forget to copy us. And I think you're also offering a special amenity of you offer a great discount on all the merchandising that you have on property. Yeah. All right. So I see two more. Thank you. Oh, well, Jenny said thank you. Cynthia, merci. Thank you, Karen. Well, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
See you tomorrow for another webinar. We're going to Peru tomorrow, direct to Cusco. Allez, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Bye, everyone.